Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Here are some words from former President James A. Garfield. Maybe we should send these to, hopefully, ex-quarterback of the 49ers, Colin Kaepernick. We cannot overestimate the fervent love of liberty, the intelligent courage, and the sum of common sense with which our fathers made the great experiment of self-government. Ah, yes, one can only hope. Good morning and welcome. Here comes, of course, Kate Smith. And God bless America. Followed by a patriot to call in with our Pledge of Allegiance. Call in, call in. Good morning. Oh, good morning, good morning. We got a busy Tuesday today, August 30th, and welcome to the program, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, and I thank them so much, our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call 734-6969. Right now, without further ado, let's go to the phone lines and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, old friend.
Old friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a feeling, and I'd put money on it at Vegas, that you're going to be calling back to me in a few minutes, all upset, angry, and sweating. So give me a call back, Doug. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it, sir.
All right, partner. Hey, it's time for the weather. The weather brought to you every morning at this time by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. These are wonderful, wonderful people, Kyle and Whitney. Good morning, Kyle and Whitney. And I'll tell you what, they've got a wonderful store, all your carpet and flooring, kitchen construction. Kyle is a master at individualizing and personalizing kitchens, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home. I mean, give them a call. Stop in 678-6945. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's a beautiful day for one of the final last days of the month of August, and today is going to be another warm one. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 94, tonight low of 60. Tomorrow, pretty much the same as today, partly cloudy skies, high of 92 with an overnight low of 57. For Thursday, winds bumping up just a little bit, mostly sunny skies, high of 87. For Friday, definitely windy out of the west. Right around 16 miles an hour is what they're forecasting. Mostly sunny skies, high of 73 with an overnight low of 47. Yesterday's high was 91. The overnight low was 48. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
She does a great job. Thank you, Gina. I appreciate it. Brought to everybody by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Hey, by the way, Thursday is sale day coming up, and that's, of course, at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. And Merv May, Kay Droggy, and Lance Udy and the crew, the sale that works for you. 11 o'clock starting time at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. For consignment information, sale information, call 678-9411. Burley Livestock Sale Yard, sale on Thursday. You better believe it. Let me give you a rundown as to what we've got on the program this morning, and I am very, very happy with the guests that we have this morning. First of all, at 9:06, we're going to have a lady back that we get more letters and cards and emails about. Please have her on a weekly basis. She knows all about energy, or the lack of in this country, and that's the lovely Marita Noon out of Texas. And then at 9:30 this morning, we're going to be talking about your children's heart health with a cardiologist from Boise, Idaho, Dr. Gordon Mack. And then at 10:06, we've got a stand-in for Dr. History. It's going to be New Mexico cowboy John LeMay talking about Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid, and others down in that area of the old cowboy state, New Mexico. And then at 10:32, we have attorney Larry Saltzman with the Pacific Legal Foundation. He's going to tell you about a couple of court cases that just show how our personal freedoms and our private property rights are absolutely going down the toilet. So all that coming up this morning. Going to be a good program. Daryl's Cleaners. Hello, Kevin. One of the nicest people I know, and just so smart when it comes to dry cleaning and the restoring of your old items. Maybe they've been laying in the attic. Yep, don't throw them away. He can help. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew over there at Daryl's Cleaners. 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 878-8900. And when you stop in and drop off your clothes, pay right then and you get a 10% discount. Oh my! At Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. As you know, I've been very, very happy with the technical support and the people at SafeLink Internet. My, oh my, they are so courteous. My, oh my, they are so efficient. And SafeLink Internet, fast, reliable. They've got over 10,000 customers, and they would like to serve you. All you have to do is just get a hold of them at 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. SafeLink Internet. Please call them today. Well, I'm not going to make any bones about it. I was not asked. I was not asked to vote. I was not asked my opinion. I was not asked about my family's security and welfare for the future. You weren't either. But there are, coming into this country right now, you can bank on it, 10,000 Syrian refugees. They're on the way. And many, many more are going to be following. Now, primarily, with the Syrian refugees coming into this country, we're going to be looking at the bulk of the first 10,000 will be going to California, Illinois, Michigan, and Texas. The bulk of the 10,000. Now, you know that any place that has, any community that has a refugee center or the means to provide that service, you know that they are on the target list for accepting more of these now Syrian refugees. What scared me this morning was I was listening to a spokesman on the television this morning at 4:45. saying that the screening process is, quote, limited at best. We don't know who these people are. You can take, and we've talked about this till the horse won't get up and trot anymore. We've talked about this many, many times, and CSI, Times News, City Council, Sean Berriger, and others have said, oh, come on. You know, there's a great vetting process. No, it's not. No, there is not. I am very concerned because here's my question to you this morning. How come we were never asked? It's our country. The first three words of the Constitution say, we, the people, but there was no vote on whether or not to just carte blanche take these people in at our expense. Now, I don't know about you, but I've got to see some limitation here. I've got to see some limitation here on these numbers coming in, or a complete stoppage. Yes, I do agree with Donald Trump. Yes, I do agree that we have to have a much more thorough vetting system. And quite frankly, I am very concerned about the Muslim influence coming into this country. Why are they not looking at the Christians that are being persecuted over in the Middle East and first and foremost, get them out? Why? Why are we called bigots and hate mongers if we don't go along with this idiotic mass encumbrance of refugees coming in? The people in California haven't said yes. I've talked to many people down there. They're bitterly against it. I've talked to people in Illinois that are bitterly against it. I have not talked to anyone in Michigan. But show me and tell me the common sense of letting most of the refugees that are en route to Michigan going into Detroit, a town that is wrought with unemployment, a town that is wrought with civil unrest and lawlessness. This is only going to add to the demise. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. Open 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday. All your heating and cooling needs. And don't forget, we're going to be over there on September 15th for the Hats Off to Farmers and Salute to Our Military. And earlier that morning at 7 o'clock, before we go on the air at 8, we're going to have a great big biscuits and gravy breakfast provided by the Rupert Veterans Memorial. And the proceeds go to Christmas Helping Santa Fund. Yep. So it's only $3 a person. You'd better be there. At Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Really good, folks. By the way, too, I'll take your calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866 927-4587. Honestly, are you just going to lay back and say, okay, let these people come on in here? Let these people come in and we'll provide them jobs. We'll provide them housing. We'll make sure that everything's comfy cozy for them at our expense. As I've stated so many times, and I've been criticized by this by some of the liberals out there, that I went to the refrigerator, and I've said this, that the gallon of milk called the milk of human kindness in my refrigerator is empty. I don't mind. As a matter of fact, I try to help as many people as I can. But I am sick and tired of having it forced upon me when we do not know the nature or the status of these people or their intent. Calls are welcome, please. Barry Equipment and Rental, don't forget 3 locations, South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Boy, have they got a repair shop over at the Burley location, all remodeled and ready to serve you. They can fix anything. You get a hold of Rod or Juan. Hey, good guys, super guys. They can help you. And also, you know they have the equipment to get the job done right. Whether you're renting or buying, they can help you. Barry Equipment and Rental, Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Does it really scare you when you think of Hillary thinking of 500 times the amount of people that are scheduled right now if she wants to come in this country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't even have to hesitate on that. I'm scared of Hillary. I'm scared of liberalism. I'm scared of the Democrats. I'm scared of what her policy ideology is. I am worried because I think America is going to let her in the Oval Office. And I'll tell you something. Even a comedian like Larry the Cable Guy, known for his one-liners, known for not being very serious, was very serious this morning when interviewed, and he looked at the camera and said the voting of Hillary as president would be the end of this country.
Good for him. You know, this setting deal, let's step back in time when people were real pioneers. Okay, let's just say even our times, someone decides they don't like our society here, and they move to the mountains, say a young couple, and they don't even come down for anything. They're very self-sustained, and they have several children. No birth record, nothing at all. How do you vet these people.
You can't, Keith. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if they're leaving a war-torn country. You do not have computer records. You don't have the county courthouse files in your little knapsack. You don't have anything. You can be and say whatever you want to be and or say. This is ludicrous to think that there is a vetting process that is going to work 100% of the time. Now, the reason I say that, 100% of the time, all it takes, Keith, is one or two slip-ups, and look what happened in San Bernardino and other places.
Yeah. The answer, I think, would be to it, and I'd like to see Donald Trump address this, is let's find a safe haven in Syria and send these people there.
It wasn't Donald Trump that started.
Come to America, let them go through our system.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it wasn't Donald Trump that started that. Wait a minute. Keith, wait a minute. It wasn't Donald Trump that started that idea or premise. It was actually Franklin Graham, and he came up with the idea long before Trump said anything about it. He said, you know what, this is ridiculous. We ought to be creating safe zones within their own countries so they can stay there and eventually help to take over their country, run their country, manage their country, be political leaders in their country, and not bring them here. It's an idea that I've even voiced on the air that should have been done and could have easily been done, and it would have been cheaper for everybody.
Yes, that's the thing that I would like to emphasize, is the fact that people say, we're going to send all this money and supplies and everything to them over there. It will be far cheaper than keeping these people here the rest of their life on the dole.
Well, I'll tell you something, Keith. I don't care if they call me a hate monger. I don't care if they call me a bigot. I am sick and tired of being called names that I am not, but I will keep absorbing their names on the liberal left because I don't want any more refugees coming into this country. None. Unless we know exactly 100% who they are, their motives, if they've got a job lined up, if they have family here, they've got accommodations to live, they can pay their own way, etc. I'm sick and tired of opening my billfold to people I don't know nor do I want here.
Absolutely true. I agree with you 100%.
All right, I got to run, Keith. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant at 611 Overland and Burley and 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Now, just listen to this. Delicious buttermilk pancakes made with real butter, real milk, real eggs, a hint of vanilla, and golden brown, fluffy and tasty. Add whipped cream and nuts or syrup. Oh, it's always at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. You're going to love it. Stop in, take the family, and enjoy the food. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland and Burley and 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls, America's Diner. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, speaking of Muslims, however they got here, in Dearborn, Michigan, Christians were, minding their business. They were protesting, but they were minding their business. They weren't aggressive. And the Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan, started throwing rocks at the Christians. Now, you never hear of people throwing rocks in America, at all. But this is the kind of thing that's happening to our society. They start to break us down and break our society down. And this kind of uncivilized insanity of throwing rocks at Christians, and nothing was done to them. And I guess unless somebody was injured, it wasn't a problem. But you see how this sounds? It sounds like we are slipping into a place where we don't want to be.
All right, now let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Randy, and I'm short on time, and I want your answer. I appreciate it. If somebody would have come up to you and said, sir, we need to have your vote in a public opinion poll as to whether or not to bring these people in, how would you have voted?
Well, we can't bring them.
No, just give me a simple answer. Simple answer.
I would have said no.
All right. I would bet and venture to say that in this very conservative area, that it would have been easily around 88 to 90% that would have said no, knowing that they're going to be on the dole, they're going to be on the take, they're going to be on our welfare systems, they're going to be basically given and handed everything. And this country is right on the precipice of falling over into the abyss financially and economically. But I was never asked, you were never asked, and then we're ridiculed by so-called leadership because we have, oh, you don't have human compassion. Randy, I'm sick of this. I think that we should have had a vote on this.
Oh, yes, there's no question about it. It's just like, well, if they don't know, well, we're the ones who make the decisions. They aren't, whatever, smart enough to make the decisions. They're not informed enough. I don't know if you saw the picture of Sean, the mayor of Twin Falls.
I did. Yeah.
With chumming it up, but now I realize the owner of Chobani might be a great guy, but he's got a Muslim background and he caters to them. And it's got this picture of them chumming it up, and you get the feeling that the paper said, look there's nothing you can do about what we're doing.
Yeah. It's kind of like, Randy, this is the way it is. You people out in the hinterland, you knaves, you just accept it and keep trying to lean into the plowshares because we're going to tell you exactly what you're going to accept. I don't like that attitude.
No, and it's like, see, nothing's changed. You know, they may have the city council may have had an opinion, and we've never heard anything from the trustees of CSI. And I know you know these people at the trustees of CSI. I know you know some of them. And so, whatever. But you see, they act like they're no longer our friends or our neighbors.
Well, quite frankly, Randy,
they are our friends. I don't know if they're our friends anymore, but they're our neighbors, and we all live together here. And it does matter. I
agree with you, and I certainly do appreciate your remarks this morning. Thank you very, very much. You know, I don't want to have increased numbers. I don't want to have 5 times, 10 times, 20 times the number coming in. I don't want Hillary Clinton telling us, yes, we're going to ship them here. Yes, we're going to take them here. Yes, you're going to appreciate it. But yes, you're also going to pay. Anybody that thinks we're not going to pay for this is absolutely devoid of any mental capacity whatsoever. I am absolutely sick and tired of reading this. The White House spokesman, Josh Earnest, said the United States will also seek to admit about 10,000 Syrian refugees beginning this fiscal year, October 1st. And then the numbers will escalate from there. I was never asked, you were never asked, and I'll still stand behind my statement. 88 to 90% of those that would ever be asked would say no. Wait a minute. Let's reconstruct and build our own house first. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Absolutely the best of physical therapists, and I mean that. I know these people. I know what they're capable of doing to help you get back to being you. They are excellent. I wouldn't recommend them if they weren't. And they are the best. Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists with all the exercise, all the sports medicine, the hydrotherapy pool, helping you get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation in Burley, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Callers are welcome and appreciated on this program, even those of the liberal persuasion, but it just seems like they can't dial the phone. I can't understand it. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup, the only locally owned and independent hearing healthcare practice in southern Idaho. She can help you if you've got a hearing problem. Hey, what's that, Martha? Hey, listen, don't miss what you should be hearing and enjoying. Be sure and get a hold of her today. Have a hearing screening. They're located right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Number to call, 312-0957. I'm not kidding. I did it, and I'm thankful I took that hearing screening. 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. You get a hold of them today. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Something else that Well, we'll get into that next story in a moment. Caller, good morning, and thank you for your time. Go ahead.
Good morning. You know, Zeb, you talk about the fact that we aren't all informed about all the things that are going on that we need to know. Kaiser County is doing it to Kaiser County residents. There are not very many people know that today is the day that you go vote, yay or nay, on this levy for the school.
Well, now, that's not entirely true, Sharon, because I've had segments on it with Dr. Smyer and others. We talked about it on the air, so I'm not going to say...
last week, but I have visited with several people, and they had no clue.
Well, wait a minute, though. Let's be fair. I'm not going to brag and say, well, that every single person in the Valley listens to me, because we have most of the listenership. There's no question about it, according to the polls. But I did carry a complete 20-minute segment on this last Thursday with Dr. Smyer, and I don't mean to sound like I'm getting my hackles raised, but I did all I can.
Right, and same here, because like I say, last week when I was on, I mentioned it and talked about it a little bit. But I don't know where people are that they don't know, but I have had several people say, oh, I didn't know that was today. Yep, today's the day, folks. You vote yay or nay on the school levy. For Kaiser County only.
But, you know, here's the thing, and being that you've been in the radio business, you know this. You can say the horse was white. You can say the white horse ran fast. And then, when you're off your broadcast, you get a call and people will say, well, now, did that Shetland pony ever break out of a walk?
I know, huh? Exactly. Exactly.
And it just drives me nuts that people can hear, but they don't hear.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that is very true. But I just thought, we need to let people know today is the day.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you called, and I also want to compliment you. Great job last week while I was gone, and you're doing other great jobs helping us with other information for the program. Thanks, Sharon. We appreciate it.
Not a problem.
All right. Have a good day. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, sir. My thought is, how do you take over a country without really going in and fighting and killing, without firing a shot?
I think you've answered your own program, Doug.
Yes, you take it over by bankrupting it, by overloading it, and having it collapse within.
Do you not see, people, what's going on in Europe? Do you not see what's going on, the devastating effects in France, in Paris, and some of the outlying cities? Do you not see what's happening in Germany? Do you not see that the political leadership in those areas are sweating bullets right now because they don't know what's going to happen? Doug, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see what's happening in other areas of the world and how our so-called leadership is trying to impose the same thing on us.
Exactly. I mean, we see it. But if you want a one-world government, you don't. The plan is going just like they've got it planned for a one-world government.
Every day...
We're the only beacon left. If the United States falls, there is nobody going to stand up for freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, folks. What has the United States done for freedom in the world? We have fought on foreign soils to destroy people trying to control everybody.
Yeah.
And we've been successful until of late, when it become political wars instead of a war you go fight and win.
Okay, but let's stay with the major premise of what I started this morning on this, Doug. And Wheels, we're getting an awful lot of feedback in my headsets. Watch that a little bit, please. The major premise of this whole thing was that we're being forced and coerced into taking these people into this country, into this area, into these regions, and never had a vote on it.
And that's wrong. That's really wrong, but that's how they shove their agenda down our throat. Because they'll do that until the people stand up and throw them out of office and get rid of them. They'll keep doing it. A bully will keep being a bully until he's confronted and punched in the nose.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that what you're talking about is exactly the way it is, and I'm very concerned for this area, an agricultural area, our culture, our school systems, the added burden of translators, the added burden of people coming into an area. You know as well as I do, it's going to cost taxpayers money, a lot of money that right now economically they don't have. And it's also, in my opinion, and I'm going to state it, Doug, it's also going to cost us security.
Security? It's a lot of things it's going to cost us, and it's a scary deal.
It is, my friend.
Thing I want to mention, I'll let the other caller come on. Did you hear John Kerry, his statement over in Bangladesh?
Well, I have it right here in front of me, and I'm going to read it to everybody because it's one of the most stupid statements anybody in politics could have ever made, especially from a Secretary of State. And I will just read the last part of his statement. Wheels, monitor the overlapping pressure on that line, would you please? He said, but if you decide one day you're going to be a terrorist and you're willing to kill yourself, you can go out and kill some people. You can make some noise. Perhaps the media would do us all a service if they didn't cover it quite as much. People wouldn't know what's going on. This is from the Secretary of State of a free country, the United States of America. This dolt, John Kerry, should be thrown out of his position.
Well, he should have to pass an IQ before he can get his next paycheck.
I agree.
I mean, that's just something. I heard that this morning, and I had to rewind it 3 times. And I went, what did
Yeah.
he say?
We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, too. Doug, thank you. I got to get this other caller in here in just a second. Thank you, caller. Caller, stand by, please. I've got to tell everybody about Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street in Heyburn. Oh, I love this slogan. They have warm hearts for cold noses. Oh, I'm telling you, it's a mixed animal practice. Big or small, they love them all. And they're welcoming Dr. Liz Schrepfer as an associate veterinarian, too. Hey, they're great. And don't forget, I'm going to be telling you more about an Ark Animal Hospital having a fundraiser for the Cassia County Canine units. It's going to be in the month of September, so stay tuned. Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn, warm hearts for cold noses. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. I am sick and tired of these refugees being shoved down our throats. You know, we have veterans who need the help, they need the medical care, they need the housing, they need all these things. They defended our country. Why do we have to foot the bill for these people who don't want to help themselves? And we get stuck with it whether we like it or not. I'm sick of it.
Well, now, Donna, gee, I am surprised. You mean to tell me that you don't want any more dipping into various funds like Social Security to help aid and abet these people to come here, clothe them, feed them, house them? Why, what's the matter with you?
Well, I guess I'm not politically correct, because you know what? I really don't give a hoot and you know where about these people. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way. I do care about all people. But, you know, we have people right here in this country who need the help.
Yes.
Why can't we help? Why do we have to be everybody's savior at the cost of our people?
Well, I think,
and I
Doug...
don't care whether you're black, white, purple, pink, or orange.
Well,
I am not prejudiced. But I'm sick and tired of getting these people shoved down our throats. Look at what's happening in Twin Falls. There's been 3 rapes of young girls at these refugee camps. What in the world are they thinking?
Well, the analogy that is put forth in the illustrious Times News and others of leadership, quote unquote, in that area, well, you don't condemn other people when it happens. You only look at the refugees and blame and point your finger at them. Look, what I'm saying is, Donna, I am sick and tired of being imposed upon with people on our doorstep that we don't know. There's not a vetting process, and it's costing the American public a lot of money. And then they come back and they say, oh, come on, where's your milk of human kindness? I want to retire. You and George want to retire. Why should our money be taken out of a Social Security fund and given to people that have never contributed to that fund at the risk of shortchanging us? I mean, why, Donna?
I wish I had the answers, Eb. I was hoping you could tell me.
Nobody can.
I am not in opposition of helping people. We help people every day, or we try to. But, at the expense of our own well-being, like I said, we have veterans, combat veterans, Vietnam veterans, Afghanistan and Iraq and Pakistan veterans that need the help right now. And they can't get it because our government and the illustrious officials are giving it all to these refugees who haven't accomplished anything in their lives. And it's not the men and women or the young women and children that are coming in. It's the fighters that are coming in. Why don't people realize that?
Well, Donna, I'm sorry I don't have the answers for you, but not to pass the buck, but I think you will agree with me. Nobody has the answer as to why our government is force-feeding us on this concept of, they can come into this community, they can come into that community, they can go over there, they can have their own culture. What you feed them. You take care of them. You find them the clothing, and you find them the transportation. You find them the housing. Doesn't the American public realize they're not coming in without somebody having to pay for it, and it's us, the American taxpayers?
Well, I think a lot of people have their head in the sand.
Or elsewhere.
And they need to pull it out. It's almost too late, and I hate to be a pessimist. But you know what? Two people, you and I, can't change it. It's going to take the whole nation waking up and going, oh, holy heck, what are we thinking?
Yeah.
And I hope it happens soon.
I do too, my dear.
We're going to get another 4 years of Obama.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. God's blessings to you and George. Thank you very much.
You and Deanne, too. Have a good day.
Thank you. You know what? I want to elaborate a little bit quickly on what Doug said a moment ago with Secretary of State John Kerry. I'm not kidding you. That statement is a direct quote. And I heard him say it on television, and I got a written copy of it this morning. He was making an official visit to Bangladesh, and he was meeting with the top Bangladeshi government officials at a press conference. And he came out and said that the media could do us all a service by reducing coverage of terror attacks. Do you not hear what those words said to you? In a free society, we should, we could, and we must know what's going on around us. Or we will have government basically dictate to us with no questions asked. When you have a diminishment of a free press and not let people know what's going on, bam, the trap slams shut. And they have you. They have you. I am so... There are not words that I can use on the radio that would explain my hatred and dislike for John Kerry. He criticized his troops, his fellow countrymen, after Vietnam. And for some ludicrous reason and idiocy, he was appointed as Secretary of State of this great country, the United States of America. And now with a statement like this, the people wouldn't know what's going on if the press didn't cover it as much. That should be one of the most chilling statements that you've ever heard. I despise John Kerry. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, on Thursdays, we have at 9:12 our Denny's football segment. And be listening at 9:12 on Thursdays to win possibly a Grand Slam breakfast from Denny's if you can answer the football trivia question correctly. And they're going to get a lot tougher this week, let me tell you. So be ready at 9:12 on Thursdays, the Denny's football trivia. Time for the weather, and it's brought to you right now by the Urgent Care of Idaho, Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, and of course Jerome Urgent Care Jerome, Twin Falls Urgent Care, and you can go to the website, find out so much more about these great folks serving you, urgentcareofidaho.com. Minor emergencies, major care. No appointments necessary. They are there to help you. Here's Gina with the weather.
It's a beautiful day for one of the final last days of the month of August, and today is going to be another warm one. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 94, tonight low of 60. Tomorrow, pretty much the same as today, partly cloudy skies, high of 92 with an overnight low of 57. For Thursday, winds bumping up just a little bit, mostly sunny skies, high of 87. For Friday, definitely windy out of the west. Right around 16 miles an hour is what they're forecasting. Mostly sunny skies, high of 73 with an overnight low of 47. Yesterday's high was 91. The overnight low was 48. That's your weather for Zebeth Rant.
Doesn't she do a great job? All right, Gina, thank you. Sounds good. Going to cool off towards the tail end of the week. Don't forget the urgent cares. Riverview Urgent Care Burley, Urgent Care of Jerome, and Twin Falls Urgent Care. And it's true, no appointments necessary. You just walk in. Minor emergencies, major care. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to ask, I mean, come on, does the statement that was made by John Kerry, does that not bother you? That he would say you can make some noise, perhaps the media would do us all a service if they didn't cover it quite as much. People wouldn't know what's going on. Man, I'll tell you what, you want to take over a country, you want to absolutely have the people in the palm of your hand, and the easiest way to do that and get that is to not tell them anything, unless it's what you want them to hear. Look at Venezuela. Look at other countries. Look at back in World War II with Hitler. Don't tell them anything unless it's absolutely something we want them to hear. John Kerry, a despicable Secretary of State. There's something else that we need to talk about for a few moments this morning, and it's a great concern of mine. Now, granted, I am not a computer aficionado. If I don't know something or know much about a topic or something, I'm not going to sit there and beat my chest like I am the know-all encyclopedia of that respective subject like some people do on the radio. I'm not going to be that way. But I do know enough to know that right now, according to the news stories that I have that have been sent to me this morning, and thanks to my lovely wife doing some research for me, that computer tech experts, these are people that really know, they are very, very concerned that the rigging of the presidential election would be, quote-unquote, easy. Does that not bother you? It does me. Right now, as we speak, computer experts have said that there have been hackers, very possibly, they said this morning early, Russian or Chinese hackers that have hacked into the voting systems in Illinois and Arizona for their primaries, and it would cause and could cause and very well might cause complete chaos in November at the presidential election. Now, when I read some of this story that was posted by Catherine Watson this morning of the Daily Caller, it gave me a chill. It said the United States e-voting system is so vulnerable that a small group of one or a few dedicated individuals could target a linchpin district of a swing state and sway the entire presidential election. Just another thing to worry about this morning. You go to vote, and all of a sudden the hackers have nullified the vote, or the final tabulation of that vote. And in a related development yesterday, Yahoo News reported that foreign hackers accessed 2 states' election databases, prompting the FBI to warn officials across the country, our United States, to enhance their computer systems' security. Wow. If there's not one thing there's three that are looming in the background that are waiting to lurch out at you and hit you over the head. But I think we can solve this. We need leadership. We need doggone Matt Dillon tough leadership that are going to look at the bad guys and knock the bad guys on their keister. We need leadership that it's not going to put up with this garbage. We need leadership that when they catch these people, it's going to be an end all for them. We need leadership that's going to put back the respect. Let me say that word again because it isn't used much with the United States anymore. The respect for our country. I honestly don't think that anybody from other countries right now really respects us. I don't know. You tell me. Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to just kind of finish the story on Colin Kaepernick that was in the news so much yesterday. And I want to just say this. I heard a lot of pundits yesterday absolutely come out and condemn Colin Kaepernick, and deservedly so. The young man, I think, is not the brightest bulb in the fixture. And one of the people that was interviewed said, you know what, I wonder what his thoughts are for his foolishness and his stupidity today will be 20 years from now if he's still living in this, the greatest country in the world. It makes you wonder. But then on the other hand, you have a black journalist by the name of Jarrett Bell. Jarrett Bell, remember that name, that writes for USA Today Sports section. I was absolutely knocked on my keister when I read the headline that says, quote, Kaepernick deserves praise for standing against injustice. I about fell over. And then in this whole story that Jarrett Bell wrote for the USA Today, he praised Kaepernick for sitting down during the national anthem, and he condemned the police for shooting of black individuals. Never once did he ever say a word about black police families grieving at the funerals for their loving fathers and husbands that were shot by other blacks in riots, etc. Never once. And then he had the audacity to praise Muhammad Ali. He said somewhere Muhammad Ali is smiling. Let's be frank. Muhammad Ali was and I'm not going to call him Muhammad Ali. I'm going to go back to the original name that made fame in boxing, Cassius Clay. Cassius Clay was a draft dodger. Cassius Clay made a lot of money here in the United States of America, but he didn't like the United States of America. He was a draft dodger. And I'm getting a little sick and tired with people in the media, i.e. this Jarrett Bell, praising people that are anti-United States. Now, they have the right to say and do whatever they want. They have the right to their own opinion. But so do I. And I'm going to condemn their pathetic statements. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And boy, oh boy, big weekend coming up, Labor Day weekend. Oh, I'm going there. Oh, you going there? I'm going over here. Well, we're going over there. We're going to New Mexico. We're going here, Texas, you name it, Arizona, California. Woo! A lot of travel left. You better make sure you got good tires. The best tires are right there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And they will give you a free pre-trip safety check. Visual inspection of tires, wheels, front-end components, brakes, shocks, struts, batteries. And by the way, they have the best in brake service. Absolutely. With the professionally trained technicians serving you. Stop in today. See Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Okay, I'm done ranting for this hour, but I absolutely, I said this yesterday, I'm going to say it again. I honestly believe there is going to be a linebacker somewhere on another team that has relatives that have served in our great United States military or has served themselves. And all of a sudden, in some game in the future, Colin Kaepernick is going to be a choice target. Go linebackers. Okay, coming up next hour, Marita Noon and Dr. Gordon Mack. And then following that hour after that, Dr. History with John LeMay and then Larry Saltzman, attorney for Pacific Legal Foundation. We're going to send this back over to our main studios. Old Wheels is ready to play you a tune going into CBS News. Don't go away. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Good Tuesday, everybody. Alrighty, here we go. Hour number 2, and it's going to be a good one. Thank you very much for tuning in. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is landing ahead, always at your disposal. Western Way Services, they live right up to their slogan, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service, and have your garbage picked up weekly. It's gone. It's out of there. 734-6969. Locally owned and operated, like I said, they really provide the best in service. Western Way Services, you call them today. Also want to say thank you very much to another business that has been with us for a long, long time on this program, and that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward, a very dear friend of ours, his family, and his staff. And I'll tell you what, I mentioned this the other day. A lady called me and she said, really, will they come to the rural towns and churches when there's the passing of a loved one to help you with all the arrangements? Yes. All you have to do is please call them 436-5636. And by the way, they have the planned guides for you to come in and pick up so that you know what needs to be done in a very short period of time. It will help you. So please stop in or give them a call at 436-5636. Always treating you with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. You know, there are a lot of guests, and I said this last week on the program when I introduced her, that I just thoroughly enjoy having on the program because they know what they're talking about. And this lady with Energy Makes America Great is one of those great ladies. Executive Director Marita Noon, good morning. How are you?
I am great, Zeb. It's a treat to talk to you once again.
You know, Marita, I got to hand it to you that as soon as one of your columns comes in, I try to gobble it up, highlight it, and make notes so that we can talk about it. The newest one just was handed to me this morning, so I haven't had a great chance to read a lot of it, but I want to talk to you a little bit about your headline. It made me chuckle at first, but it's extremely serious. From fracking to flatulence, the all-out assault on methane. You know, we might find a little humor in that, but it's really kind of a serious situation, isn't it?
It is a very serious situation, and I'm glad, though, that at least my title made you chuckle because, of course, that was my goal, to kind of get people's attention by sticking the word flatulence in there. Obviously, I could have gone with a different F word, but I chose the more polite version because that's who I am.
Okay.
But, yeah, it is. Well, this is, as the title says, this is the anti-fossil fuel crowd's latest assault on fossil fuels. And realize they tried to go with water contamination, and that fracking is contaminating water, and that's been disproven by study after study. And even in a recent lawsuit with one of the people that was in the movie Gasland 2. They went through a whole lawsuit against the drilling company, and the only thing they settled on, and I think that the jury did this kind of as well, we ought to do something. They settled on finding the drilling company guilty of nuisance, no water contamination. So they've tried water contamination. Then they've tried earthquakes, and we've had studies, including one from Stanford University and one from the United States Geological Survey, that have said, nope, fracking is not causing earthquakes. So now they're after methane, and they're declaring that methane leaks are happening because of fracking, and therefore we need to stop all fracking in the country.
All right, now where do the cattle come in on this? Because I have heard this story for many, many years now, that the environmentalists and the anti-methane crowd are going to start pointing their fingers at dairies and feedlots, etc. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The Wall Street Journal did a story on this, and they titled it The California Cow Police. And seriously, the California Air Quality Board, I believe it is, I may have the acronym slightly wrong there, but the California Air Quality Board is proposing that dairy farms have to put in methane capturing equipment. Now, I have to tell you, when I first got into this industry 10 years ago, I recall seeing a political cartoon that had a picture of a cow with essentially a catalytic converter sticking out its hind end. And now we're there now. I mean, back 10 years ago, this was a joke. And we're now there. They're wanting, but they acknowledge, in the Wall Street Journal, they have a quote that I'm paraphrasing, but it says, we may have, in California, they may be able to produce the least greenhouse gas intensive gallon of milk, but it will be the most expensive gallon of milk. So they're going to price, again, the poor out of the market with these crazy regulations.
You know, Marita, I'm sitting here and I'm chuckling, but then on the other hand, like you said, 10 years ago we laughed at this, we scoffed at this, and here today it is. And I can relate a lot with the animal rights groups that stem from over in Sweden and the Netherlands, and then their plot against us came to this country. We laughed and we scoffed at them, and now they are huge money conglomerates that are trying to stop any usage of animals in this country. The same can be for this methane crowd. I would not be a bit surprised if they somehow figure out how to really tax dairy farms and feedlots, etc., almost out of existence. And that's where those two groups are kind of hand in hand. Would you agree?
I agree. I mean, they really do not like meat. They really want us all to be vegetarians. And that is definitely a part of it. In fact, the Wall Street Journal story talked about how many of the dairy farms in California have already left. They've moved to other states, or they've sold out to become housing developments. Or one of the things the Wall Street Journal mentioned is that they have now become nut farms because there's far fewer regulations that they have to deal with. So we're already seeing an exodus of dairy farms out of California, or just plain closure or conversion of dairy farms.
All right, now you mentioned nut farms, and with the connotation of nuts, that brings us to the name I want to find out more about, Bill McKibben. What kind of a kook is this guy, and where does he get his money? Who's financing him, and really how much power does he have?
Well, he has less power than he thinks he has. But Bill McKibben is the founder of an organization called 350.org, and the 350 deals with, this is the number of parts per billion of CO2 in the atmosphere by which there was no return, hence that title. However, they haven't given up. We've blown past the 350 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere, and what we've seen is plants, crops. We have record crops because of the CO2 in the air. We see forests greening up. We see all kinds of positive agricultural things going on because of the high CO2, but yet that was the number that supposedly was going to be the demise of the planet. And Bill McKibben is funded by largely the Rockefeller Foundation and other groups like the Park Foundation, and these are anti-fossil fuel groups, even though realize Rockefeller's got their money from oil. But they're anti-fossil fuel, and he jets around the planet, literally, spewing his anti-fossil fuel agenda. But I have to tell you, an exciting thing happened yesterday, and you may recall my column a couple weeks ago talking about the few, the loud, the anti-fossil fuel crowd, where I talked about this staged event that the anti-fossil fuel crowd in Colorado did in bringing in petitions to try to get anti-fracking ballot measures on the ballot, anti-fracking initiatives they wanted to get on the ballot. And they, in their own, if you go to their websites, it was like, yay, we turned in the signatures, we did it, we're going to ban fracking. Well, lo and behold, the announcement came out yesterday. They did not turn in enough signatures, and there were so many invalid signatures that it is possibly triggering a fraud investigation against the signature gatherers.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm trying to relate back to that piece that you had written, they needed 150,000 signatures, and they really fell in the ocean short, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they did. They needed 98,000 qualified signatures.
I see.
And historically, that means in order to get enough qualified signatures, because there's roughly, historically, about 30% that don't qualify. You know, for those of us walking out of a grocery store, sometimes someone sticks a petition in front of you and says, here, sign this petition. Well, you don't really know what it is, and so sometimes people just sign a false name on those circumstances. So you have to have, that they say, about 30% more, which would have meant they would have had about 140,000 signatures to ensure they had enough signatures to get on the ballot, and they turned in about 105,000. So they were able to claim, yes, we did it, we turned in the signatures, but in reality, they did not have enough. And that's part of why I say Bill McKibben does not have the power or the authority that he thinks he has. But he is one of the big anti-fossil fuel voices and the leader of the Keep It in the Ground movement.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions about methane that you addressed in that piece. Now, a lot of people don't realize that methane is produced naturally, as you wrote about in your last piece, in the wetlands. Well, therein lies kind of a double-edged sword, because environmentalists are really interested in restoring wetlands. So aren't they contributing to a potentially bigger methane problem?
Yes, that's one of the interesting conundrums of this whole topic. I mean, there's many, and maybe I ought to write a column on that sometime, of the conundrums of the green movement. But that is one of them. I'm sure you have many listeners, Zeb, who enjoy fishing. And you know, if you're out on a lake and you'll see coming up from the bottom of the lake, the floor of the lake, you'll see bubbles come up. That's methane. Methane is released when organic matter decomposes. And when organic matter decomposes on the bottom of the lake, it releases methane. And it's a very naturally occurring gas. It also comes in New Mexico at the Four Corners area, where Colorado, Mexico, Utah, and Arizona meet. There is a large, what they call a methane seep. We have a coal bed underground, and the methane seeps out naturally. That's near the rock in the cliff. Methane seeps out of that naturally as well. And of course, humans produce methane because, flatulence is a part of human life as well.
One thing, I was sitting here reading your piece, and it seems like, now correct me if I'm wrong on this, that McKibben and others of his ilk, they seem to be bent on an anti-agricultural program, whether it's crops, whether it's livestock, etc. And here we are, in an age where we have so many more people that are living on the world's globe and need food, they need nutrition, and it seems like the environmental movement is out to literally kill these people or starve them to death, but yet most people don't understand how insane and inept the environmental movement is. I mean, I'm just sitting here laughing on one hand and very serious on the other as to the ineptness of the environmental movement.
Yeah, and that is very true. And you know, they projected back in the 70s, Paul Ehrlich projected back in the 70s that we were going to have, you know, this population bomb. Remember, he had a book called The Population Bomb that was a big news at the time and a big scare tactic. And with how many people were on the planet, were projected to be on the planet, we weren't going to be able to produce enough food. They were going to be starving, and that is not the case at all. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, this increased CO2 has resulted in really bumper crops this year. So their projections have totally not come true. And there are some places, there are some websites that you can go to that list all the projections that the environmentalists have said were going to happen because of global warming and by whatever dates. And many of them have dates on them, so it's very easy to go back and say, oops, that one didn't happen. Oops, that one didn't happen. But yet somehow they continue to come out with these new scare tactics that people continue to buy into.
Marita, I just was handed this morning, as a matter of fact, the new blog that you had written in regards to the title, A New International Example for Bad Energy Policy. And in the first couple of paragraphs, of course, it talks and highlights about Australia. What's going on down there in Australia? You know, they consented to letting a complete confiscation of their guns take place, and now they've got a new international for bad energy policy. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Sure. This story, when I discovered it, and I've seen virtually nothing on it in the U.S. Media at all, because it doesn't fit with the narrative about wind energy, solar energy being free and wonderful. The British publication, the Financial Times, on August 18th, and this is how I found out about it, had an article titled "Australian State Power Crisis Sparks Green Energy Backlash." And when I saw that, I read the story, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I've written in the past about Germany and how their green energy plans are really not working, and in actuality their CO2 emissions have actually gone up in the last few years. Well, this South Australian one is great. They have got the highest renewable energy targets, they call it, of any of the states in Australia. They want to have 50% renewable energy, I believe it is, by 2025. And they've got the highest implementation of wind energy of any of the states in Australia. In fact, of any, I think anywhere in the world, they have the most wind energy, highest percentage of wind energy. And in July, they had a confluence of events that created their electricity prices to spike to 100 times the norm.
Wow.
100 times the norm. They're normally in the $100 range for a megawatt, I believe it is, and I don't have this in front of me, but and they went up to more than $1,000. So this energy crisis is a fabulous example that everybody should know about. And when they hear Hillary Clinton talking about we're going to have 100% renewable energy by 2050, as is the Democratic Party platform, you need to know about what's happened in the real world in other places that have tried this.
You know, one of the comments that you had in there, and I was speed reading through this, is, and I'll read it to my audience, in South Australia, wind typically contributes 10% of its registered capacity during peaks in summer demand. In fact, on some days, it was explained, they actually suck electricity instead of generating it. So it turns into another cost factor instead of being a plus, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, admittedly, the amount of electricity that each turbine needs to stay functional. See, there's gears and things in there that must be kept turning even when there is no wind. So they have their own electric motors in there that drive these things even when they're not generating any electricity. So they suck electricity out of the system. Now, admittedly, the amount of electricity they suck is probably minimal. But these are the times when they need the electricity the most because the wind turbines are not turning, and they've shut down coal in South Australia. They've also shut down some of their natural gas-fired power plants. They import coal electricity from neighboring Victoria through a single connector line.
Oh, my.
A set of transmission lines. And this particular transmission line was down for some repairs at a time when they had a real cold snap, because remember, it's winter now in Australia. They had a real cold snap, and the people were turning on their electric heaters and increasing demand at a time when they could not get extra coal-fired electricity from neighboring Victoria. So they literally had to reopen a gas-fired power plant that had been shut down. So realize the employees had been laid off, the plant had been shut down, and they literally had to reopen that natural gas plant to produce enough electricity.
Marita, real quick, when you look at the happenstances in Australia and you look at what's happened in Europe, you look at what's happened in Spain with green energy and the debacle and the absolute waste of money trying to perpetrate something that just isn't working, why in the world aren't our politicians smart enough to wake up and smell the coffee and say enough is enough?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think some of them are. It's baffling that many, primarily Democrats, although there are a few Republicans that buy into this, it's baffling that they cannot see, for example, this South Australian energy crisis, which is a great one because it just happened, and it just proves. And even in my article, I talk about a guy who's with the Clean Energy Council, and even he acknowledges that Clean Energy Council Chief Executive Kane Thornton, he's conceded that conventional power generation, such as gas, would most likely be needed as a backup. So the crazy thing to me is if you must have natural gas as backup for wind and solar for when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining, why don't we just go with natural gas? Why do we have wind and solar at all? They become an expensive redundancy.
I'll tell you what, I don't know if you've thrown your hat, so to speak, into the ring, but have you thought about maybe saying, I'd love to be the new energy secretary for the United States because we need somebody as sharp as you are. It's been a long time coming.
Well, you're funny. There's a radio talk show host in Las Vegas, and my mother used to live there, so I was there quite frequently. And when I was on his show, he would say, you know how we'll know when we have the right president? And his answer was, when Marita Noon is Secretary of Energy.
Amen. Marita, I thank you. Energy Makes America Great. Great author of the book, Energy Freedom, Marita Noon. God bless you down in Texas, and I'll look forward to having you back on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Deb. Have a good day.
God bless. Thank you. I love that lady. She is sharp. Marita Noon. Thank you very, very much. Okay, we've got to pay some bills. How about Let's Ride? You better hurry. Get over there today. Check out the great closeout prices on the 2016 four-wheelers and side-by-sides. Oh, and get up in the hills and enjoy. That's your property, the public lands. Get up and enjoy it. I mean, I am sick and tired of people. Well, maybe we better not go up there. And yes, it's your property. You get up there, public lands, and enjoy. Don't abuse, but use. And like I said, most of the 2016 four-wheelers and side-by-sides, great closeout prices at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. And the new 2017 models are coming in. They've got all the accessories and a great service department. So what are you waiting for? Get out and enjoy Idaho. by stopping in first at Let's Ride. You better believe it. Great folks, Nick and the crew, where the fun is sold. Great guys and gals over there. Also, quickly want to remind you before we get our next guest on the program about some dear friends of ours, and we all seem to have a tendency to put on the back burner our life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. You take care of that. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. They are the professionals. Very accessible, very devoted to serving you. Number to call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Call for an appointment today. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Well, but knocked the microphone off the stand, which is not good. And right now, we're going to go to the phone line. Old Wheels, my engineer extraordinaire, does a great job over there. And I want to introduce to you a gentleman with the American College of Cardiology and also with St. Luke's Cardiology in the Boise area. And good morning to Dr. Gordon Mack. Sir, how are you this morning?
Good, thank you. How are you, though?
I am fantastic. Now, Gordon, am I right in assuming Boise? Is that where you're at, sir?
Yeah. We moved to Boise about 3 years ago.
Now, I noticed a little bit about, are you from the northern Great Lakes or even Canada?
Yeah, we're originally from Canada.
I could tell. What province were you from up there?
Saskatchewan.
Very good folks up there. Dr. Gordon Mack is a cardiologist, and we're here to talk about the screening for youngsters, a newborn screening awareness. Give us a little background on this, would you please, Dr. Mack?
Sure. So in 47 states in the United States in about 2001, there was mandatory congenital heart screening with a simple saturation monitor, and so they measure the saturation in the right hand and either foot, and it can detect at least 70% of critical congenital heart disease, but also detects things like newborn sepsis or metabolic disease or what we call pulmonary hypertension. So it's high lung pressures in the lungs, and so it's pretty important disease because a lot of times we wouldn't know how sick the kid was until they would present, sometimes either at a few days of life when what we call their ductus arteriosus closes, or at a month of life when their heart's actually having a lot of trouble. And I used to work at Primary Children's in Salt Lake, and we had a kid that showed up at about a month of age with what we thought was a big boggy heart, or called dilated cardiomyopathy, but it was actually because of a coarctation of the aorta, and that could have been detected in the after first 24 hours of life with this simple screening process.
Okay, now you mentioned 47, correct me if I'm wrong, states. Where does Idaho fall in? Have we accepted this test, this new screening awareness?
We haven't, actually. It's been tried to be passed through the legislature, but it has been denied.
Okay, now when you say denied, what is the process? What is the education for our legislators? What do they need to know so that we can get this passed? I mean, what are they not seeing or not acting on?
Yeah, I can't speak for them, but at least for our part, I think it's just like you said, education. Knowing that it's a simple test, it really is very, very cheap. Depending on if you use a new probe, a new saturation probe, or if you have a reusable one, it can range from 50 cents a baby to $6.50 a baby. And that's a huge savings when you have a kid that presents, in what we call extremis, in being very, very sick.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're sick, then it takes a lot of recovery, there can be a lot of rehabilitation, and that's if they survive. That there's one study in Philadelphia, I think it was, that said that for every child that's been detected, it saves $40,000 per child year if it's not detected.
Well, now wait a minute. The way I'm
healthcare savings, but you know what? Also, if it's your child or grandchild
right.
that's not detected and presents that sick or may die, then it's actually the cost is almost pretty well irrelevant.
So basically,
I think it's just education, like you said, just
yeah.
knowing that it's out there and that it's. I guess I don't know why there's opposition.
Well, now the initial cost of now help me on this, doctor, because I'm not aware of the material or the equipment or whatever. But if the initial cost to the parents, and please help me and correct me, is only $6.50 to have their child tested for this, that might help eliminate future costs of maybe even $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 and even death. I mean, I don't see why there's a problem.
Yeah, no, I don't either. But everybody has their own thought process, and I think with education we can help people understand that it's a super cheap test, especially in medical care costs these days. $6.50 is really cheap.
Well, you can spend a lot more than that on breakfast, a cup of coffee, and an orange juice, and I just don't understand why it's not being pushed through. Now, let me ask you about the health of our kids today. And I'm not saying in the old days, we walked 47 miles through the snow to get to the school every day. But what I am saying is we had mandatory PE at high school. We really worked. We had the exercise period with the jumping jacks, the push-ups, the sit-ups, and everything else. And then we went into physical education, whether it was basketball, softball, whatever. I honestly believe that our kids today are way too sedentary, and that's causing a lot of heart ill health. Am I right or wrong?
You're correctly right. Our society has become very, very sedentary, and we see that on a daily basis in our clinic, with obesity, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, so high cholesterol. And you're right, like you said, I grew up in Canada, and we had a thing called participation, where every child in elementary school and high school was out doing like an hour a day or at least 45 minutes a day of exercise, at least 3, maybe 4 times a week.
Right.
And at that time, yes, and I'm not that young, but at that time we didn't have iPads, iPhones, Samsung phones, Galaxies that would occupy our time, but we were out there interacting, playing dodgeball, volleyball, soccer, and I think that's a big thing. There was another thing that I was reading, and it's our reliance on fast food. It's pretty high-fat content. It's got a high triglyceride or high cholesterol, and that can't be really healthy. So unfortunately, we do need to shift our focus away from kind of quick and easy things to just kind of more activity and more healthy food.
Well, I had, and I'm very open about this, Dr. Mack, I had a heart attack about 18 months ago. And quite frankly, mine, I think, was based almost 80% on stress and everything else in my job, etc. I was very lucky. It was a minimal damage heart attack. And right now I'm enjoying a very strong heart with a very good extraction level on the blood leaving the heart and everything. I'm doing very, very well. However, I have changed my diet. I have not touched a salt shaker in over 18 months. And I very occasionally, sit down or go through a fast food restaurant and have, like I did yesterday, and I'm going to be honest about this, I have not had a double bacon cheeseburger for over a year. I splurged yesterday, and I maintain that you can stay pretty regimented, but every now and then, if you get the urge, it's not going to kill you. How would you respond to what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally appropriate. I think everything in moderation, soda, caffeine, everything in moderation. The key is just good regular exercise to kind of burn off those calories and get some fresh air, and lots of water. Just to help improve the blood flow to your muscles and your body. So, and the reason why I also say about minimal caffeine is that, caffeine kind of dries you out. So if you're just drinking coffee all day or soda all day, it's not really good for you, plus also the added sugar.
What would you say?
That's great to have a lifestyle change. For most of us, it takes something like you had. It was a heart attack to kind of change our perspective on things.
Right. Now, what would you say when I say this statement to you, Doctor, that I've done a lot of study and I've read a lot about heart attacks and heart health over the last 18 months. And I maintain that most of the problems with hearts, I'm not saying all, but most of the problem with heart attacks and heart problems could be eliminated like if we were as healthy as we were in days gone by. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we did more, we were more active, we were less sedentary, and we actually had work to do, physical work to do as compared to today. Am I right or wrong on that?
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we need to get away from our desks and get out and on our noon breaks, go out and walk, because our lifestyle has changed. We're very computer-orientated, where most of our work occurs. And so that makes us sit. But, there are things that can help you along the way. You can go for walks every, even a 10, 15-minute walk for every hour, every 2 hours. Getting one of those Fitbits or whatever kind of active watches is really a great idea because it reminds you to get up and move. I'm not sure if we can all go outside and work outside just because of the way society is that we're very computer orientated. But I think there's ways to get around it.
Well, I think
your job, right? So you're on the radio, you're in front of a microphone. How do you go out and stay active?
Well, my morning is this routine. I get up at 4:30 in the morning every morning, and I lift weights in a speed drill with weights for about 15, 20 minutes, nonstop. It's one of those Marine speed drills. And then after that, get dressed, take a shower, come in here, get my work done. I'm on till 11 o'clock on my program at a studio at my ranch. And then the rest of the day, I'm running helter-skelter. I'm either a horseback or I'm doing something in the later stages of the afternoon, very active. And I maintain that whether you have a heart problem or had a heart attack or whatever, you can strengthen that muscle, which the heart is, and you can delay or even defer another heart problem if you really get your head out of the sand and start exercising.
Totally agree. I think more people like you that kind of portray that message is great because we really need to do that. They're saying by 2050, 30% of Americans are going to be obese or even more than that, morbidly obese. So, we need to turn that around.
Well, I'm a big guy. I mean, I'm right at, before I had my knee and my hip operated on, I was right at 6 foot and I weighed about 225 pounds. I put on a few pounds because of the surgery and everything, but I still maintain that the exercise will keep the blood flowing and the heart working the way it should. But now all that being said, Dr. Mack, what about our kids? I mean, I would love to see mandatory physical education in every age bracket in the school system at least 3 times a week. Would you go along with that?
Oh, I'd fully support that. Completely support it. It's a preventative thing, right? Obesity, high cholesterol, hypertension is completely, 99.9% preventable unless you have a congenital heart disease in kids. I really support it, that people really should have mandatory physical education. But, not like, I'm guessing you were in the military, but not like with a drill sergeant, but, a very positive environment.
No, I was not in the military, but I'll tell you something. I respect the military and their work ethic and their exercise ethic. But I want to go back, in the time remaining in this segment, I want to talk about these little kids. I mean, they come into the world, and you're telling me that a newborn screening awareness, something could be done if the screening showed some negativity, and it would possibly not only save their life, but also future spending of thousands and thousands of dollars to try to correct the problem. All of that, and it would only cost $6.50. I'm amazed at how low the cost is.
Oh, yeah. All it is just a saturation probe. The monitors are already in every hospital and every clinic and every emergency room, and it's just the little the little wire with the little color light on it, and that's $6.50.
Wow. Well, Dr. Mack, I want you to know that...
And it's just, there's training involved, because you have to do one on the right hand and on either foot, and if the child passes, then that's done. But if the child fails, then it's redone in an hour, and if it's still the child fails the test, then it's redone another hour, and after that, then either somebody like myself, which is a pediatric cardiologist, is called, or their pediatrician is called to examine the child and see if there's any further testing done. But it also has the person looking after a child look at the child and reassess their breathing, reassess if they look, what their color looks like. So it gives that added attention that can help see if the child is really quite sick, or if the child is becoming sick. So there's a lot of benefits to it, more than just even the cost of the test.
Well, let me ask you this then, and help me on this. Where is the negativity coming from? Is it coming from the hospitals? Is it coming from doctors? Is it coming from families? Where is the negative coming from?
I think it's mainly coming from families and legislature. I think there's a pervasive feeling out there that we're putting too many restrictions on people, but this isn't really a restriction. This is just a screening test. I think part of it also is education. People don't understand when there's something relatively new. They don't understand, and they immediately go against it. But if, like you said, if it's only $6.50, it is harmless. It doesn't hurt the child. It's done in more than just the United States, but it's done all across Europe and in Canada, and it's accepted as a form of screening. Then yeah, I'm not really 100% sure where the resistance is, but we just need to keep talking about it, and then people will realize that it really is harmless, and it's actually got all the benefits to it.
Okay.
There's some legislatures that state that, well, a lot of states already do it, or a lot of hospitals already do it, but if you don't mandate something, then, some people do take shortcuts, but if you mandate it, then those shortcuts are taken away.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do, Dr. Mack. I'm going to call my dear friends in the legislature, and they are, of course, Representative Fred Wood, Speaker of the House Scott Bedke, and we're going to find out their feelings on this, and then I'm going to call you back for another program segment, and you'll hear from me in my office, and we'll have you back on the air. How's that?
Hey, great. Thanks a lot. Hey, thanks for having me on your show.
All right. God bless you, Dr. Gordon Mack. And he's up at St. Luke's Cardiology, and I certainly appreciate the conversation. Thank you, sir. God bless. Thank you much.
Thank you. You too.
Very interesting. I don't understand, for just a minimal $6.50, we waste more money than that every day. You do, I do, everybody does, spending on something frivolous or minimal. $6.50, and they can detect possibly future severe heart problems. I don't understand why we can't do that. I'm going to do some checking. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Pope, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, and Company. Wow. I always try to work with the best people in all aspects of my life. The best of doctors, the best of CPAs. That's why I chose these folks. Pope, Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin and Company, CPAs in Burley and Rupert. People that are starting a business, they need questions answered, whether it's a business partnership or corporation. Business owners wanting to hire more employees. People that are trying to keep up for the IRS, all their taxing and everything, and they need questions answered. These folks are the best, providing accounting services to the Minicash area for over 50 years. Curtis Pope, Todd Phillips, Rob Oakes, Mitch Goodwin, Heather Daly, and Lyden Crane. And I told you they're serving you at 1710 Overland in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. We'll be back right after this weather with Gina.
It's a beautiful day for one of the final last days of the month of August, and today is going to be another warm one. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 94. Tonight, low of 60. Tomorrow, Pretty much the same as today. Partly cloudy skies, high of 92 with an overnight low of 57. For Thursday, winds bumping up just a little bit, mostly sunny skies, high of 87. For Friday, definitely windy out of the west. Right around 16 miles an hour is what they're forecasting. Mostly sunny skies, high of 73 with an overnight low of 47. Yesterday's high was 91. The overnight low was 48. That's your weather for Zebeth Ranch.
Thanks, Gina. And, of course, the weather brought to you by CPAs. Curtis Pope, Todd Phillips, Rob Oakes, Mitch Goodwin, Heather Daly, and Lyden Crane, all who are comprised of making up Pope, Phillips, Oakes, Goodwin, and Company, the very best in Burley and Rupert, your CPAs. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You want to have a little laughter this morning? I'm picky about the Times News. I know I am. And I'm picky about their mistakes or perhaps shortcomings because there's so many of them. But I was looking in the paper this morning, and I came across some photos that were in regards to a story about the Studio G gym and the owner. And they had three different pictures in this story. Different angles of the owner showing kickboxing and everything else. But they used on all three pictures the same caption. Now, surely they could have been more creative than using the same caption on all three pictures. Pick up the paper, you'll see what I mean. I mean, a little innovativeness, a little creativeness, but the same picture, basically, and the same caption. 3 times. Callers are welcome at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. And, oh boy, the emails from Hillary Clinton. It's becoming a little bit more dicey all the time. And somehow, and it should be obvious, that the Department of Justice seems to be wrapped around Hillary's finger. And even James Comey and the FBI, very, very disconcerting as to how they basically let Hillary off the hook. And if this is the case with both the DOJ, Loretta Lynch, and James Comey with the FBI, all of us should be very, very fearful that money talks and the rest of us walk. And this situation with Hillary, had it been any other government employee, had it been anyone else leaving, like Uma Abedin admitted that she left classified material on the front seat of her car, it was very, very sloppy and slovenly. And the emails that were going across Hillary's private server were absolutely available for hacking. Had it been anybody else, they would have been indicted. Had it been anybody else, I dare say, charges would have been filed. But does it not scare you that the Department of Justice is turning a blind eye and deaf ear of justice in favor of Hillary Clinton and the FBI? And formerly very respected leader James Comey. I have a chill in my backbone right now that maybe our government has succumbed to letting the bad people rule, and those that they consider less, well, they suffer the consequences. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, we're going to be at Ramsey Heating and Electric while I'm waiting for your phone call. We're going to be there Thursday, September 15th for the Hats Off to Farmers and Salute to Our Military. And the remote broadcast is going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, go to 11, just like we do every day. But before that, at 7 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have biscuits and gravy served by the Rupert Veterans Memorial Group and George and Donna Mass, and they're going to serve from 7 till 10, and the proceeds at just $3 a plate are going to go to the Christmas Helping Santa Fund. And I urge you to be there that morning of September 15th at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Okay. What else have I got on the line here? Oh, real quick, again, a reminder that the Senior Junction in about 2 weeks is going to have a great big free breakfast. Listen to this now. On September 17th, a free breakfast from 8 to 10 at 2421 Overland, and it's all because of their grand reopening at the Senior Junction on Overland and Burley. And these are really, really nice people, and they're out really getting involved in the public, and they want you to be a part of all the happenings at the Senior Junction at 2421 Overland in Burley. Next hour, what have we got cooking? Well, I'm going to tell you, we've got a little change here because Dr. History is spending some time with his lovely bride, and we're going to have, in place of Dr. Ken Turner, Dr. History, we're going to go on the phone line to New Mexico and talk to Mr. John LeMay. John is an author and has written books about some of the historic Western icons like Pat Garrett, Sheriff Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid, and others. And he's going to be on the program with us at 10:06. And then at 10:32, they were very amenable to changing their schedule this morning. We've got attorney Larry Saltzman with the Pacific Legal Foundation going to talk about some of our freedoms lost on private property rights, etc., and some of the court cases that they're helping the general public fight against our own government and the EPA, etc. So don't miss that. That's coming up this next hour. Right now, we're going to send it back over to my old partner, Wheels, and he's going to play a little tune as we take a little break and go to the news from CBS, and we will be back in about 7 minutes. Don't you go away.
Back in the 1870s and 1880s was cattle.
I see.
It kind of still is today. It's just a different version. You know, today it's dairy cattle.
Well, now, what about John Chisholm? Am I wrong? Wasn't the movie that John Wayne had a compliment to John Chisholm and his land holdings? Wasn't that why the movie was made?
Yes, it was. And it's basically accurate, too. It's just since John Wayne played Chisholm, you know, they had to write the climax a little differently. John Chisholm never fired a gun in the Lincoln County War that we know of, and he certainly never had a confrontation with Lawrence G. Murphy. That was just something for the film. But yeah, otherwise it was basically, you know, an accurate film.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, I'm very proud to have this man on my program, and hopefully he'll come back in the future. Down at Roswell, New Mexico, John LeMay, and all about Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid, John Chisholm, etc., down in the Roadrunner state of New Mexico. And thanks, John, for coming back on our program.
All right, well, God bless you, Deb. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. The very same back at you. Thank you. Very interesting man, John LeMay, and of course, Dr. History is brought to you by Minnecasia Sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Why don't you give them a call if you can't stop in today? Give them a jingle, 878-2091. And they sponsor Dr. History every Tuesday at 10:06. Zach and the rest of the crew with all your windows and all your shingles, your lumber packages. They've got it all, and they can and will help you. Minnecasia Sales in Burley. While we've got a few minutes, I also want to acknowledge on Thursdays we have another great segment on our program. It's called School Days in Cassia County, and I am blessed to have the two sponsors of that program right here One of them, A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. My goodness sakes, they've got all the infant and baby clothing and the young person's clothing. They've got wonderful new dresses and school clothes right there at A Child's World. And always great, great socks and books. You name it, it's all there for you and your family at A Child's World. Wonderful store, nice people. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And the other sponsor, Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley. The number to call to save on your outpatient surgeries, 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. I mean, whether it's cataract surgery, glaucoma surgery, colonoscopies, please call them and learn more. Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley, along with The Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. We are going to take a little break for a few minutes and send it back over to our main studios with Wheels, and then we're going to come back with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Larry Saltzman, our attorney this morning, to talk about a couple of cases I think you'll find very interesting. Right now, back over to the main studio. I'll see you back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much, and I've looked forward to this next segment all morning long with the Pacific Legal Foundation and one of their great attorneys. And we say good morning to Larry Saltzman. Good morning, Larry. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Doing well.
You know, I want to say right up front, Larry, I appreciate your being so amenable to changing times for us this morning. I wanted to get you on today, and I thank you very much. I want to get into the first story that the Pacific Legal Foundation and you yourself personally were involved in, and it involves property rights in California. Give us a little basics about what the story is, what the problem is, and how it was solved.
Well, let me tell you about the case we had at the beach here in Southern California, San Clemente, California. Pacific Legal Foundation is a big defender of property rights, where we fight for property rights all across the United States in America's courts. And here in San Clemente, we had a problem where the Wills family owned a mobile home that was right on the beach. Now, that's a pretty unusual and a somewhat enviable situation. But when you own a piece of property by the beach, you're subject to erosion, and they protect that property with a small seawall. It's been in place since 1960.
Right.
They needed to replace the aging mobile home. It was rotting, weathered, etc. Electrical was going bad. So they tried to replace the mobile home with a brand new one, slightly smaller one. Nothing fancy going on there. And the California Coastal Commission said, well, you got to get a permit for that. And we're not going to give you a permit unless you agree, as a condition of that permit, to forever waive your rights to repair or maintain or do anything to that seawall to protect your property. Now, you can guess you got a property at the beach. If you don't repair that seawall on occasion, stones fall out of it as storms come across, it's just a matter of time before you have no property at all. And that's exactly what the California Coastal Commission's objective is. They want to see these beachfront properties in this area of the coast gone so that the property cedes to the public without having to pay any compensation to these property owners. And fortunately, we brought the California Coastal Commission to court, and the court saw it our way and said it's just not fair to make somebody give up the right to protect their property as a condition of using that property when the law allows them to protect that property. So we had a big win here in Southern California, and now we see whether the Coastal Commission might appeal or whether they're going to let it lie.
Wow. Now, Larry, let me ask you a couple of obvious questions. Number one, let's go back to this family. I believe his name was Eric Wills. Isn't that correct?
Yep. Eric and his wife, Rebecca, have this mobile home down there in San Clemente, California.
Okay, now, they bought and paid for the property where this mobile home was sitting on the beach, so everything was cut, dried, legal. It was a legal sale, legal ownership, everything. And then all of a sudden, years later, they're being told that they cannot protect their property. Sounds to me like you have every leg to stand on and really can beat back the strong arm of government.
Yeah, that's right. This is a completely legal. It's a mobile home park, so it's not just the Wills, but this decision really helps protect the rights of their 89 neighbors to the left and the right of them in this mobile home park. It's a mobile home park along a long stretch of beach in Southern California. And what's really going on here is that over the years, the political winds have shifted in California. There is the California Coastal Act, which tries to prevent development from occurring right on the beach. But this property was built in 1960, so, it predated any of that legislation. So when it was built, it was legal. It's always remained legal. There is a right under California state law to protect a legal lot like that on the beach with a shoreline protective device like a seawall. So they were completely in their legal rights, but the political winds have shifted, and the commission is using the occasion of permits. You have to repair your home, you have to rebuild your home, you have to expand your home. You need a permit. And people are most vulnerable to the government when they need to get a permit to do something. And so the California Coastal Commission is just leveraging that vulnerability, leveraging that permit power they have to take something away from the wills that the government's not entitled to under the law. And most people, I've got to say, just knuckle under and give up, because if you need to repair or replace your home, you don't want to fight for a couple of years about your rights if you think that's the only way you can get your repair done. Most people knuckle under. The wills were willing to stand up for property rights and for their liberty to live there on the coast. Pacific Legal Foundation, supported by our thousands of donors that want to see us defending property rights, allowed us to represent them pro bono, so they didn't have to bear these heavy legal bills to stand up for this fight, and we prevailed.
Larry, let me ask you this question. I'm so glad that there are foundations like yours, the Pacific Legal Foundation, people that really have their back up against the wall. I know of a case in Wyoming where you folks went in and helped an individual, and I think nothing but good thoughts about the Pacific Legal Foundation. That being said, going back to this case of Eric Wills and his wife on this beachfront property, what happens when they, in their will, want to pass that property ownership on to one of the heirs in their family? Will the state of California and that area, will they honor that?
Well, it's a good question. You can't predict the future, but what we see here is an increasing attack on property rights, and really a kind of an ignorance or a misunderstanding. Property rights are really about, very often property rights are about security and about harmony between property owners and about prosperity, preserving the value and creating incentives to improve land. So these core values that property rights protect, of security, of privacy, and of cooperation, and of prosperity, they're really threatened by the unfortunate trend against property rights, particularly in California. And Pacific Legal Foundation will continue to monitor these situations, and will continue to file lawsuits, because we have these courageous clients that are willing to stand up, stick their neck out, spend, a year, 2, 3 of struggle and frustration and ambiguity through court to get a final decision. And every time we get one of these final decisions, like we got in the Wills case, we establish a precedent that strengthens that and makes it a little more clear that the next generation will be protected in their property rights.
All right, now, we've got time for another story that you're working on, and I understand this is the case of an elderly couple that were attempting to subdivide their property. What happened here?
Yeah, this involves the Chirk family. You're right, they're elderly. Esther and Dart Chirk are 83 years old. They live in Marin County, California. Very modest income up there, and it's a very high cost of living up there. And their major asset left was a vacant lot in Marin County that Dart's father had left them. So it had been in the family for more than 60 years. And they had an idea. Dart's an architect by profession, and what he thought is, I can probably maximize the value of this lot by splitting it, selling a piece off and using it to augment our retirement income, and leaving something for the rest of the family, when they're gone someday. That was his idea. So he went to the county and said, I'd like to split this lot, 3 acres in Marin County. It's a residential neighborhood. The lots average up there less than an acre, so there's nothing unusual, nothing he's trying to do that's out of the ordinary for the neighborhood. And they came to him and said, we'll let you split the lot. It's again, he's most vulnerable when he needs a permit from the government. He needs a permit to split this lot. We'll let you split this lot, but we have an affordable housing crisis in our community, and we're going to make you pay a $40,000 fee that goes to an affordable housing fund as a condition of splitting your lot. Totally shocking. I mean, there's no reason for them to have this kind of special tax to pay for affordable housing. Everybody knows that housing is very expensive in the Bay Area in California. It's the government's refusal to allow enough housing to be built in that area that's caused that government-imposed housing shortage. But they're trying to saddle individual property owners with the bill to subsidize housing in that area, and they don't want to stand for it, so they've sued.
Well, I'm completely confused on this one, Larry, so I'm just a big, dumb old cowboy, but how in the world would paying a $40,000 fee to Marin County, how would that help the affordable housing problem other than lining the pockets of those that are bureaucrats?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and that's the argument, is that there's really no relationship between their desire to split that lot and the problem that the government is trying to solve. And it's certainly not a problem that the Chirk family has caused. If anything, by splitting a lot, they're increasing the buildable lots in that community. They're helping the housing shortage. So why should they get stuck with the bill? There's a big principle, a constitutional principle involved here, and that's that the Supreme Court has repeatedly said that individual property owners shouldn't be forced to bear the cost of public benefits, like affordable housing, that in fairness should be borne by the public as a whole. So if the Marin County population, or the residents of Marin County say, well, we have an affordable housing crisis, we want to provide subsidized housing here, pass a tax, let people vote on it, everybody can contribute, maybe they can build some public housing, but people won't support that. People don't want to pay the taxes. And so what the city planners have said is, let's just find a vulnerable group of people who need something from us and who really can't complain if we sock them with an extra fee. And so we're going to come in through the side door and demand money from people who need permits. That's wrong. It's unconstitutional. And that's why we've sued.
You know, Larry, I'm so glad to have you on this program because it doesn't make any difference if it's California, if it's Wyoming, or here in Idaho or anywhere. Are you seeing more and more infringements and more government involvement in taking of private property? Is this becoming more instead of less?
Yeah, that's unfortunately true, and it's a good point. These two cases are in California, and of course, Pacific Legal Foundation's headquarters is in California, but we litigate nationwide. We're doing cases in, I think, more than 25 states at the moment, all simultaneously. So we fight coast to coast for property rights and other individual liberties. And, while property rights are some of the most important rights protected by the Constitution, they are sadly increasingly under attack all across America, and it's what's making PLF's work so indispensable to preserving freedom.
When you learn of a case that you might take, what are the parameters as far as getting the Pacific Legal Foundation involved like yourself? What do you have to know? What do you have to do? How big a case? What do you do to take a case like this?
Yeah, we look for a few things. If people think they have a case, they can go to our website. We have a case submission form, and it goes through a process. Somebody looks at it and reviews it for some basics, and then sends it around to our attorney team, and we make some decisions about that and reach out to the people involved in the dispute. As you might guess, we get many, many more requests to take cases than we're able to do. We're a foundation of about 25 attorneys. We do a lot of cases, more than 100 cases being litigated simultaneously right now around the country. We can't take every case, so we're looking for a few things. We want to find a case that's going to set an important precedent. We want to see a case where we can fight for the individual property owner and not only vindicate their rights, solve their problem, right an injustice, but something that will create a precedent that will help many, many other people in the same circumstance. It really is a way to multiply our capacities to help more people through a single case. And we're looking, it's not really the size of the case. The Wills case is one family with a mobile home. It's really the principle involved. The Chirk's just one family up there in Marin County, but we look for the principle of the thing where we see many cities or many states doing the same kind of thing. Again, we're trying to multiply our effectiveness that way. And often we're looking for the smaller case. If we come across a big developer, they're, what we call repeat players in the regulatory environment. They're people who have to face these same regulators over and over. And sometimes they're not willing to rock the boat with a big precedent-setting case. But if we have a smaller case with a family that's been victimized, well, this is the only asset they have, and they really have no choice but to fight and hold to their guns and not settle and get a precedent. And we like those kinds of clients. So, it doesn't have to necessarily be the biggest case. it needs to be one that defends an important principle that we think will set a precedent that will protect lots of people.
Let me ask you this last final question. Of all the cases that you've been involved in and all the people that you've worked with, what case or what was the circumstance revolved around the case that was the most gratifying for you to win as a lawyer for the Pacific Legal Foundation?
Well, that's a good question. I had a case about 10 years ago that I still remember, and again, it was against the California Coastal Commission. It seems like that's a one note. I get lots of cases against lots of other agencies, but I represented a family in San Luis Obispo whose home was destroyed in an earthquake, and it was near the coast. It wasn't on the coast, but it was near the coast and under the jurisdiction of the Coastal Commission. The city involved, San Luis Obispo, gave them their permits to quickly rebuild their property, but the Coastal Commission refused to give them the permits to rebuild their property and wanted them to use the property for farming instead. This had been their family home for decades. And, you know, it was a difficult case, but we litigated it in the trial court and we won. And, you know, it's 10 years since, and that family still lives in the home that they were able to rebuild on their land because of our case. And it set an important precedent or a line in the sand for the Coastal Commission that they can't overreach or extend their jurisdiction to take over or butt into cases where they really don't have the authority to stop building from occurring, and I'm really proud of that case.
Absolutely. Larry, I certainly hope you'll consent to coming back on the program. Attorney Larry Saltzman with the Pacific Legal Foundation, thank you very much for taking the time to come on our program this morning.
Thank you, and I'd encourage people to go to our website at pacificlegal.org, and they can see cases that we're doing in lots of states if what we've talked about doesn't affect where they're listening.
Absolutely. Larry, thank you. God bless. Come back soon.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Very, very interesting, and it's nice to know. I have had lawyers on in the past, many, many times, with the Pacific Legal Foundation, and I remember the story over in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, and I'm sure you remember it also, about the young man, young family that built a little kind of a reservoir for the watering of not only their stock on their property over there, their small ranch, but also for the wildlife in the area. They had all the permits from the state of Wyoming, but the EPA came in and said, we're the big tough bully in town, and we're going to fine you $75,000 a day until it's taken apart and destroyed. They got involved with our friends at the Pacific Legal Foundation, and the EPA had to back up and apologize. So these are good folks. I'm glad to have them on the air. Time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by our friends at Scarro's Meats. Delicious. Yes. All the meat from the locally owned custom meat processor for well over 20 years. Don Scarrow and the crew at Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Here is Gina with the weather.
It's a beautiful day for one of the final last days of the month of August, and today is going to be another warm one. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 94, tonight low of 60. Tomorrow, pretty much the same as today, partly cloudy skies, high of 92 with an overnight low of 57. For Thursday, winds bumping up just a little bit, mostly sunny skies, high of 87. For Friday, definitely windy out of the west. Right around 16 miles an hour is what they're forecasting. Mostly sunny skies, high of 73 with an overnight low of 47. Yesterday's high was 91. The overnight low was 48. That's your weather for Zebeth Ranch.
There you go, Gina. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And the weather brought to you again by our friends and your friends. Scarro's Meats. Excuse me. Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Don Scarrow and the crew are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Thank you very much, Scarro's Meats. If you get a chance, you ought to try to pick up a copy of yesterday's USA Today and go to the op-ed section at the end of the first section and read an editorial that was printed in there by three people. Three that I don't think are the brightest stars in the sky. One is Lindsay Allen, Executive Director for the Rainforest Action Network. Another one is Annie Leonard, Executive Director of Greenpeace USA. And the other author of this little piece, Erica Pica, president of the Friends of the Earth USA. And the basic premise of this little editorial is to take away the guns and demilitarize cops, I'm using their words in the headline, to protect protesters. I read this and I just absolutely sat back and I thought, what in the world? These three nincompoops want to take away the protective weapons of police going against protesters. And they absolutely feel that they have the right to peacefully protest without being intimidated. They feel that they can go and protest anything. And I'll read a couple of the segments of this thing. It's impossible for any groups to win fights against Arctic drilling, the Keystone Pipeline, and new fossil fuel leasing, or for action to combat global climate change without the opportunity to protest. And they said that federally arming police with weapons of war silences protesters all across the justice movements. What policeman in his right mind would go out on the streets with these idiots throwing rocks and bottles and Lord knows what else they have on their person as far as pistols and everything else, and stand there with nothing more than a shield? This is insanity that's being basically fueled by these groups like the Action Network, the Rainforest Action Network, and the Friends of the Earth, and Greenpeace. They want our police to basically stand down and not have any protective device whatsoever for us, the general public. Maybe the local drugstore, maybe the local pharmacy, maybe the local grocery store. And the police stand there with nothing more than their badge on and a shield. This is insanity to take away protection of the police and also the protection of the general public. And when I read this, I thought, this is complete insanity of the liberal left. They don't want the police anymore. General chaos in this country. It's nuts. It's nuts out there, folks. It absolutely is. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness sakes, they've got all the tires for all your driving, especially over this Labor Day weekend. Be safe, be sane. Make sure that you're going to have the best in tires. They've got them all for all your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever. You stop in and see any one of the 7 locations today. And don't forget, too, they've got the best of brake service. Professionally trained technicians, and they know brakes. Front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, it's all there. All there for you with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. The very best, our major sponsor, thank you, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. What do we got cooking tomorrow? Dave Vigo is going to be on the program tomorrow from Indianapolis, Indiana. George Mass is going to be on the program tomorrow talking about the Rupert Veterans Memorial and other things that are going to be happening in Rupert on the 10th of September. Don't miss that. Going to be a great event. We'll have him on the air. And then we have 2 surprise guests at 10:06 and 10:30. Why are they surprise guests? Because the person I'm working with trying to get those 2 slots filled hasn't told me who they are yet, so I'm still waiting. It's going to be a surprise to me, too. Until tomorrow at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch, God bless you and your family. Tune in at 8:06. We'll ride the horse for 3 hours. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning.